To the Phil Steele Plus tour. Up for you early this week on a Friday, huh? Normally you have to scramble around Saturday morning. Give you some extra time to watch it today. And these plays an outstanding 42 and 19 over the last 2 years. I got some real interesting stuff on today's. Shows you the depth of Phil Steele Plus, but also gets you some information that really gives you that inside information that you'll feel confident in these plays. Once again, as you always do with the FCS plays, you can't knock the record. Let's start with this Western Carolina against Wofford matchup in the opener. And last year, Western Carolina won 6 of their last 8 games. Now, as you know, we track individual player stats just like we do in the FBS for all the FCS games. Well, if we click on 2024, we see that over the last 4 games, they switched to Tayron Dickens as their quarterback and put up some big-time numbers. In fact, he was a preseason all-conference dude this year based on the way he finished last year. He topped 400 yards in 2 of his 4 starts. Now, fifth-year head coach Kerwin Bell only has 8 starters back, but Dickens was actually a preseason All-American. Now, just before the opener this year, they announced that Dickens would miss the first 3 games due to an academically ineligible issue. So if we go back and take a look here, you see there is no Dickens, no Dickens, no Dickens. He's only played the last 2 games. Look at these stats. 2 games, he's got 10 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, and they're throwing for over 1,000 yards in the 2 games combined. That's pretty remarkable. So he's got 500 yards per game with a 10-0 ratio in his 2 games. Now, they did lead Gardner-Webb 35-7 in the second quarter, but lost 52-45. They led Elon 31-29, but were stopped on downs. They gave up a late touchdown, then were intercepted on the final drive. And 2 weeks ago, Dickens returned and threw for 582 yards and 6 touchdowns. They beat Samford 50-34. Last week, they were minus 6.5 against Campbell. Western Carolina only won 42-35, but they had a 28-3 second quarter lead. Dickens threw for 427 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, Wofford does not have the offense to keep up with these guys. Wofford's offense is the complete opposite. They are 0-4 and minus 221 yards per game this year. In their first 2 games, they scored 25 points, but they came on a kick return touchdown, punt block touchdown, safety, interception return touchdown. So here, 25 points, 0 offensive touchdowns. They average just 183 yards per game, and their defense is allowing 67% passing. Check that out. 270 yards per game. Western Carolina has issues on defense, but Wofford's offense, among the worst in the country, won't be able to take advantage of it. Western Carolina showed they can jump out to big leads, and Wofford doesn't have the offense to rally from behind. Dickens has been making the most up for that lost time, and we look for him to have another big game here. Western Carolina wins by 3 touchdowns. Your forecasted score, Western Carolina 38 and Wofford 17. All right, let's get to game number 2, and for game number 2, we're going to put Holy Cross is at home. We're going to put Holy Cross on the left, or on the right, naturally. And we're going to put Harvard on the left. It's the Crusaders of Holy Cross against Harvard. And slide it up here. All right, let's take a look at this one. Last year when these two met, Holy Cross fell behind 27-7 in the third quarter on the road, and they had 92, 27, and 45-yard TD drives and led 28-27. Harvard went 75-6 for a touchdown, and Holy Cross answered with a touchdown on the final play, but missed the 2-point conversion and lost 35-34. Let's go see what the yards were here. They had a 523 to 355-yard edge. This year, Holy Cross is off to an 0-5 start. That's a lot of red here, but overall, they're minus 77 yards per game. They've played a tough schedule. 4 of their 5 losses have been by 5 points or less. They lost to Northern Illinois by 2. They lost to New Hampshire by 3. Number 6, Rhode Island by 2, and last week they lost to Fordham by 5. They led 3 of those games in the fourth quarter. In Holy Cross's only lopsided loss to Yale, they were outgained 318 to 281. That's not bad. Harvard does have one of the Ivy League's top quarterbacks in Jaden Craig. If you follow the Ivy, you know all about him. He's getting some NFL buzz. And they are 2-0, but they played very poor teams in Stetson and Brown. Stetson, by the way, is a non-scholarship team, so keep that in mind. Now, Holy Cross has taken on the much tougher schedule. They are much better than their own 5 record. They played Harvard tough last year, actually outgained them. And we expect the Crusaders to keep it closer. My computer has it Harvard 25-16, and they have a 363 to 301 yard edge. Now, reading this, you would expect the line to be what, 7, 10 points? Guess what? Holy Cross is a 17.5-point underdog here. The value is on the underdog. We're taking the points. The forecasted score of this one, Harvard 27, Holy Cross 17. Take those big points with the Crusaders. All right, let's get to your next one now, and we got totals play for you. And if I said totals play, you guys already know what team we're picking for a totals play. We've been riding this Monmouth over thing for a while, and we're going to put Monmouth at home, and they are taking on Delaware State. Here is Delaware State. Delaware State's the Hornets, by the way. Monmouth is the Hawks. You think I would have known Monmouth was the Hawks by now? I've got to get these nicknames down. All right, so earlier in the year, we won with Monmouth overs in games against Fordham and Charlotte. That was 67 here, and that was 79 there. And in their last game, they took on a pretty good Villanova defense, and the score was 51-33. Monmouth put up 637 yards, 51 points. Their quarterback, Derek Robertson, now has an 18-5 ratio, and they've thrown for 410 yards per game. That's not total offense. That's throwing the ball. They got 561 yards per game. The offense is number 3 in the FCS, and they average 130 yards more than what their opponents allow. But look at their defense. Their defense is allowing 169 yards per game above what opponents allow, hence Monmouth overs. Last week we went back to Delaware State. Now, here's the amazing thing in last week's game. It was one of the, we went 3-2 on the FCS games last week. Delaware State was one of the losses. Let's see what the line was on that. Click over here. If you go to the Phil Steele Plus menu, I want to show you a couple things here first before I get to the line on that game. Under FCS information, you can get the pass efficiency defense, just like we do for the FBS, completely updated. You can see who's at the top of those charts. Let's click back one. You can also get, under FCS information, the average game grades. Top team, average game grades, North Dakota State, 101.3, Austin Peay, Tarleton State, all the way down the line. See the teams at the very bottom. Stetson is actually at the very bottom. You got Davidson, Morehead State, Valparaiso, and so it's nice to get this. We've got this for the FBS. We've got this for the NFL. I showed you on the Phil Steele Plus NFL one, the NFL one yesterday, but we also have it for the FCS. So it helps, especially when you're looking at FBS versus FCS games. Hey, was this a good or a bad team? This pretty much sorts it out for you. And keep in mind, these average game grades, the beautiful thing about them is there is no starting point. It only takes into account the opponents, where the game was played, the yards and points involved in that game, and the strength of the opponent. It does not give, so if, no matter what team it is, if Ohio State, for example, played the same scores that Monmouth has right here against the same competition, their average game grade would be 78.9. It doesn't matter who the team is. It only matters who the opponent is. That's the beautiful thing about the average game grade. We have average game grades right out here on every team, and this is great. I'm really excited. Coming up next week, we're going to start doing these last 4 weeks where you eliminate the top game, or if you played 6 games, eliminate the top 2 games, and now you're just dealing with the last 4 games. Really gives you teams in current form, not what happened 2 months ago. It's going to give us 2 different ways of looking at the games. I just thought I'd show you that. But also over here, let's click back. There we go. FCS information. You actually get the FCS logs on every game. This is great. So last week we gave out Delaware State, and I was just wondering what the line was. The line was -4.5 against Sacred Heart, and they lost by 4. Now, why would I bring that up? It was a loss. Why highlight a loss? Well, here's the amazing thing. And if you look on Twitter, let me silence that thing there. Chris was actually watching the game. And Delaware State coach Deshaun Jackson said in 30 years of football, he's never seen a player ejected for what game officials determined starting quarterback Caden Bennett was flagged for. And watch this. Chris was watching it, and here's the quarterback, Caden Bennett. I want to give you all the highlights. He runs out of bounds, or he gets a touchdown, right? So now he runs over to the crowd and he high-fives a few players, or not players, fans, I should say. Let's watch this. It should show it. Highlights a few fans. See that right there? Is this going to show the whole thing? Maybe it's this one. Nope. Wrong. That's an article. So he highlights a few fans, and he walks past. The referee asked him for the ball, and he gave the ball to the second referee. Okay? So they gave him an unsportsmanlike conduct for high-fiving the fans. Then they gave him an unsportsmanlike conduct for not handing the ball to a ref, which he didn't see. The ref was sort of hidden, and the ref asked for the ball. Let's see if this shows it. It still doesn't show it. I thought it showed it on here earlier. Anyway, he hands the ball to a different ref. He handed the ball to a referee, just not the one that was asking for the ball. They called him for 2 unsportsmanlike conducts on the first series of the game, and he was ejected. Well, you lose your starting quarterback on the first series of the game? Come on. And especially a quarterback like Bennett, because he is one of the better QBs out there. So keep that in mind with Delaware State. They put up 31 points with a backup quarterback last week. Caden Bennett missed the majority of the game because of 2 ridiculous unsportsmanlike conduct calls, and he was ejected. So despite losing Bennett, Delaware State still led 31-20 at the half. Their backup quarterback struggled in the second half, and Delaware State lost 35-31. Now, their defense is allowing opponents 78 yards per game above their average. And now they're taking on Monmouth's offense? Look out there. Let's see what we got. Delaware State's defense, 78 below. Okay, we got that. And last week they gave up 35 points and 456 yards to a weak Sacred Heart offense. The Hornets are rushing for 280 yards per game right here. Look at that green. That's beautiful. And they're putting up 72 yards per game, more than what their opponents allow. Well, these guys are allowing 506 yards per game. So if you average 72 above that, that means you're getting 578 yards, for crying out loud. The computer is Monmouth. My computer is Monmouth 56-33. That's 89 points. Now, the point total here is high. It's 75.5. But that's saying 86. Both teams have high-performing offenses and weak defenses. Monmouth's on a 14-2 over run, and the over is 4-0 in Delaware State games this year. Clearly, the play is the over. Forecasted score here, 52-35. Monmouth. We're going to go over the 75.5. All right, let's get to your final one for this one, and it's SF Austin is at home. Let's put them on the right. SF Austin, there they are. And we're going to put Incarnate Word on the left. Let's get here to Incarnate Word. I still can't believe that quarterback was tossed for that. Did that look like anything egregious? Either unsportsmanlike conduct shouldn't have been called. They called him for 2 and ejected him from the game. Amazing. So anyway, last year, Incarnate Word went 11-3 and lost in the FCS quarterfinals. That's pretty good. Let's see what kind of year they had. Here's Incarnate Word, the Cardinals. Let's see, a lot of wins. And here they lose. Oh, you lose to South Dakota State on the road. That's not bad. They were number 4 in the preseason poll, but they only had 10 starters back. It did have to replace Zach Calzada. He's starting in the FBS now. They put up just 206 yards, 204 yards, and 6 points in the opening game. And Richard Torres threw 3 interceptions in the opener. They were upset at Nicholls State. They were minus 7.5. Oh, they were upset by Nicholls State. They were minus 7.5 at Eastern Washington, 131-21. They trailed UTSA 31-0 and switched quarterbacks. So let's take a look at the quarterback situation here. We see Torres started the year, got benched against UTSA. So now our quarterback is E.J. Colson. He's a UCF transfer. PS 86. He led 3 touchdown drives in the second half. They lost to Abilene Christian on the road. 31-23, they were plus 5.5. Last week, UIW was plus 2.5 at Abilene Christian. They won 38-7 and finished with a 423, 248-yard edge. Now, Colson has a 6-0 ratio. That's a lot better than Torres' 1-4 ratio. So we could see the offense is much better now that Colson's at quarterback. Their defense is holding foes to 26 yards per game below average. That's good. SF Austin lost to that same Abilene Christian team, 28-20. They have won their last 3 games, but have played a weaker schedule. The AGG only has Incarnate Word by 2, 86-82 in this one, and 2-point home edge. but the last 4 weeks AGG, which eliminates this game. And that's going to be the beautiful thing when we get to even more games. You're just dealing with the last 4. So it eliminated the 66, and you have it right down here. Here is your average game grade for the last 4 weeks, 91.1. And look at this. Their average game grade the last 4 weeks, just 80.2. I love this last 4 weeks average game grade. I can't wait to do the games the next week and see where it's got the teams that are playing in best current form. The offense is much better with Colson under center, and this is a team that's going to keep on improving. You got a playoff team from last year, and the play here is Incarnate Word -3.5 over SF Austin. That's Incarnate Word -3.5 over SF Austin. Your forecasted score, Incarnate Word 28. And SF Austin 20. Do want to remind you, 2 full pages on every FCS team in the digital magazine version available right now. Right here, you go to digital editions. For some reason, it doesn't show up on our main menu with the current issues. And under digital editions, click on the FCS digital preview. 2 full pages, just like you get in the FCS magazine, for $25. And I didn't really show you too much of the NFL page, by the way, when I did the NFL Phil Steele Plus. But if you look on those pages, you get, of course, the stats upgraded like this. You get the box scores. If you want to go to the box score on each and every game, it's right there. And when you go to the Phil Steele Plus menu, let's check on this. I actually want to peek at the NFL for 1 second. You got NFL. And we got NFL strength of wins, pain of losses. You get credit for every opponent's win of teams you beat and every opponent's loss for teams you lose to. Number 1's Philadelphia at 9-0. This is prior to yesterday, naturally. Tennessee at the bottom, 0-7. They've lost to teams that have lost 7 games this year. So that's a pretty interesting one. I showed you yesterday the AGG, and there's so much more. Hope you'd enjoyed this Phil Steele Plus tour. A little treat for you here on Friday. And hopefully the winners continue for the FCS tour. And if you haven't checked out the main one, get over there and get it. 6 selections, 5 quick hitters, 2 NFL plays. That's up and available for you now. Thanks for taking the Phil Steele Plus tour.